All right, today we're digging into the science behind one of our absolute favorite foods. We're on a quest, a kind of genetic detective story, to find out what it takes to build the perfect tomato.
Now you might think, how hard can it be? But creating a tomato that gives you huge yields, can handle tough conditions, and tastes amazing, well, that's a massive challenge for scientists. And it's especially critical in places like Azerbaijan, where the tomato isn't just some fruit, it's a seriously important crop for their economy and food security. It's a big deal.
So, for years, tomato growers in Azerbaijan were kind of stuck. Their yields just hit a wall. They couldn't get them any higher. And the reason was pretty simple. They were working with a very narrow gene pool and just using old-school breeding methods. It's like they were trying to solve the same puzzle over and over with the exact same pieces, just hoping for a different picture to emerge.
To get out of that rut, scientists knew they needed a totally new game plan. But before we get to the new strategy, let's quickly break down the old way of doing things.
Okay, so the traditional way is a lot like setting up thousands of blind dates. You just cross two plants and hope for the best. It takes years and costs a fortune just to see if you got lucky. It's a total crapshoot, really. But the new idea? That's like using a high-tech matchmaking app, but for tomatoes. What if you could look at their DNA first to predict which parents would make a superstar kid?
So, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how these scientists in Azerbaijan actually put this whole genetic matchmaking idea to the test. Here's what they did. First, they picked 7 really promising local tomato varieties. These were their lines. Then they chose 3 other very specific varieties to be the testers. And then they did the matchmaking. They crossed every single one of the 7 lines with each of the 3 testers. This gave them 21 brand new hybrid candidates to plant and see what would happen. So, after all that work, they planted these 21 hybrids and watched them carefully for years. And when the data finally started to come in, wow, what they found was about to rewrite the entire playbook for breeding tomatoes.
This was the big question, right? What actually makes a winning hybrid? Is it just having a really great mother plant? Or a high-quality father plant? Or is there some other secret ingredient hidden in how their genes mix together?
Well, the answer, and this is the really wild part, pretty much boiled down to this one number, 75%.
So what does this 75% mean? It means that a whopping 3/4 of a hybrid's success had almost nothing to do with how good the parent plants were on their own. Nope, it came from something else, a phenomenon scientists call non-additive gene action, but we can just call it genetic teamwork. Only 1/4 of the success came from the parents' individual traits. It was all about the teamwork.
And that's the key. This is the crucial point. You can't just take 2 superstar parent plants and expect a superstar kid. It's about finding 2 parents whose genes have that special chemistry, that spark. They create something that's way better than just the sum of their parts. It really is like genetic magic.
Okay, so that's the theory. But which of these combinations actually hit the jackpot in the real world? Let's meet the all-stars.
And here they are. The undisputed champion was the Shahin AA Ilkin cross, cranking out a massive 8.4 kilos per square meter. Right on its heels, you had these other power couples like Leyla x Utro. And what's the one thing all these winners have in common? You already know the answer. Amazing, off-the-charts genetic teamwork.
So, this leads us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If this teamwork thing is so important, how on earth could you possibly predict which parents would have good chemistry before you spend years growing them?
Well, the answer is a really cool and surprisingly affordable tool called ISSR markers. The easiest way to think about it is like a genetic crystal ball. It's a technique they use in the lab to create a totally unique DNA fingerprint for each plant. And with that fingerprint, they can measure exactly how different 2 plants are. So now, armed with these DNA fingerprints, the scientists could basically map out the entire family tree in high definition. They could see who was a close cousin and who was a distant relative. And that map led them straight to their big aha moment. And it was so clear there was a direct link. The more genetically different, the more distant the 2 parent plants were, the better their genetic teamwork was and the higher their yield. So in the world of tomato breeding, it turns out opposites don't just attract, they create super producers.
Okay, let's just pull back for a second. What's the big takeaway here? What does this new genetic blueprint really mean for the future of the tomato, and maybe for our food in general?
This is a total game changer.
Breeders now have a predictive blueprint. Forget the years of guesswork. Now they can use these DNA markers to spot the perfect parents before they even plant a single seed. We're talking about saving an incredible amount of time and money, and unlocking the amazing hidden potential in local crops to make sure we have a secure and productive food source for the future.
You know, what this study really shows is that the future food might not be about inventing some crazy new thing from scratch. It might be about learning how to listen to the secrets already hidden inside DNA. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing breakthroughs are just waiting for us if we combine this cutting-edge science with the wisdom that's been stored in local crops all around the world for centuries?